I want to welcome everybody to the February meeting, steering committee meeting for February. Before we get started, I want to make an announcement that I am so proud of, that it's a great day. I just got all my numbers back from overdose deaths from 2023, and Rutherford County had a 17% decrease in deaths. 17%. Yeah, we had 30 less deaths this year than we did for last year. So, and that's I share that with all of you because the funding and the programs that we have created are making a difference. It's not where we want to be, but we're starting to get into an area where I can actually see some hope. So the only other thing on this report is our suicides were down 3. So we still have some situations with that, but we did have less, but it was 3 total. So I wanted to share that with y'all and let you know that's for me, that's a great news. So, and I know y'all share it with me. Let's get going to our agenda. Can you do roll call?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Cush? Present. Commissioner Beverly?
He's on his way.
Thank you. Commissioner McAdoo? Here. Commissioner Rather?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Reed?
Here.
Chairman Harris?
Here. All right, let's go call on Vice Chairman Pettis Reed to approve our minutes.
Mr. Chairman, a copy of the minutes are on your iPad, but I have an opportunity to look over those minutes. I didn't find any problems, and I move that we approve them.
I have a motion. I have a second. Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Let's move on. I'd like to announce 3 County Board of Equalization vacancies, 2-year terms, April 2024 to April 2026. I'd like to announce 1 County Board of Equalization alternate vacancy, 2-year term, April 2024 to April 2026. All right, let's, now we need to confirm Amanda Mathis as Judicial Commissioner. Is Amanda here? Would you like to come up, please? Tell us a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind.
Amanda Mathis. I have been with Rutherford County for 7 years, and I have served 1 term as a Judicial Commissioner, a 4-year term.
Are there any questions?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. A second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you, ma'am. All right, next is a resolution of support for Woodbury Cannon County bypass. This was brought to my attention from Chairman Phillips. And what this is Cannon County is asking us to support them to help get a bypass to take a lot of the congestion and traffic away from their town center, and they're asking us to show support. So, Jeff, would you like to elaborate on that anymore, or is that pretty much answer it? Come on up.
Mayor Greg Mitchell from Cannon County has asked our mayor and then called me and asked for our support in helping them work with the state of Tennessee to get a financial support for a bypass around the city of Woodbury. As you all know, there's a 4-lane highway that connects McMinnville to Woodbury and Murfreesboro to Woodbury. But those 4 lanes merge into a 2-lane through the city of Woodbury. And what they're wanting is to have a bypass, a 4-lane bypass around the city of city of Woodbury, so that they won't have the congestion in the future that they're beginning to have right now. It makes a lot of sense. They're not asking for any financial support, but just a verbalization of support that we support that process. And it would improve the ingress and egress into Rutherford County as well as Warren County going in the future. Mayor Mitchell was going to be here tonight, but I don't see him, so if you'll allow me, I'll just read the resolution. Resolution of support for Cannon County's pursuit of a bypass around the town of Woodbury, Tennessee, whereas Rutherford County has strong and unequivocal support for the pursuit of a bypass around the town of Woodbury, Tennessee, and Cannon County. Recognizing the growing traffic congestion and associated challenges within the town, we believe that the construction of a bypass is crucial for the overall well-being and the development of the community, whereas Cannon County has been an integral part of our region, contributing significantly to the economic, cultural, and social fabric of our area. As the population continues to grow and transportation needs evolve, it is essential to address the increasing traffic concerns in a thoughtful and proactive manner, whereas the proposed bypass around Woodbury holds the potential to alleviate traffic congestion, enhance public safety, and improve the overall quality of life for residents and visitors alike. By diverting through traffic away from the town center, the bypass can create a more efficient and safer environment for local businesses, pedestrians, and commuters. Whereas Rutherford County, commends Cannon County for its foresight in pursuing infrastructure projects that prioritize the well-being of its residents and contribute to the sustainability development of the region. The bypass project aligns with our community's commitment to promoting economic growth, ensuring public safety, and preserving the unique character of our towns and cities. Therefore, Rutherford County formally adopts this resolution in full support of Cannon County's effort to construct a bypass around the town of Woodbury. We urge that all relevant authorities to expedite the necessary approval and funding for this essential infrastructure project.
Do I have a motion to approve, to accept?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I make the motion, and I would like to share something that how fortunate Rutherford County is. We can afford to do this because TDOT has got a 10-year plan for revitalizing a lot of our overpasses, et cetera, $205 million. So I'll gladly make this.
Do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second it, but let me say something. Today, as I was looking at this and I got the resolution, I was not aware of the mayor of Cannon County contacting our mayor. So rather than talking to the powers to be, I did better. I talked to the people of Cannon County, some of those I've known for a lifetime and some of them that are natives to the county. So I just called them to find out. I said, do you know anything about this or what is involved? They said, well, not necessarily. But as far as a bypass, it's desperately needed within county there. And they began to explain to me about the fact of the traffic that goes through there, and the problems they're having right now is that you've got to understand any large trucks that are coming from this direction headed towards McMinnville have to go through the town of McMinnville. And any of you that have ever traveled that way, you understand that as far as what the narrowness of the streets, the traffic lights and things of that. I used to travel that way quite often as a young farmer here in Rutherford County. We'd go that way. We have a young farmer camp located within McMinnville over that way. And I would go that way quite often to that camp. But I think it's after hearing this individual and the people of Cannon County, hearing somebody there say they're okay with it and they're for it, I would want to second this motion.
Quick thing to that, after lengthy conversations with the mayor of Cannon County, he realizes that this is a long-term project. You know how long it took us to get 4 lanes on Jefferson Pike, okay? It was 30 years, and they're looking at a long-term project if they can get it on the state's approved list. So it's not going to happen overnight.
All right, I got a motion and I got a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? All right. Jeff, you can relay that to the mayor, okay? All right. Next is our lobbyist report, Will Denami. The governor's having his state of the state tonight. So he is not going to be able to make it. If there's any questions that you have, get them to me, and I will make sure that he gets them so that he can address them next month when he's here. If you got to have it more urgently, I'll be more than glad to take care of that as soon as I receive them from you. Next is our litigation list. Is there anything that you want question on this? It's on your iPad. As you can see, our county attorney is not here, so that'll be another one where you'll have to ask me a question and I'll get you the answer. So we'll move on from that.
The mayor, our county attorney is in trial this week, so he's pretty much tied up all week.
Yes, and it's one of the things on our litigation list, which is Candy Crush, so pretty big trial. Are there any questions on that? I'll try to answer them if there is. All right. Last on our list is our HR report from Sonia Stevenson. I've asked Sonia to bypass her report. It's on your iPad. We have a thing that we have been messing with for a year now is our handbook and updating it. And we passed several resolutions concerning this, and she has her report and all this stuff together. Try to follow this. I had her really summarize this instead of reading each of the things. And it's pretty long, but it's very important, and she's done a lot of work on this. So, Sonia, does everybody got a copy of this? All right. Sonia, start from the beginning.
Yes, sir.
And just do the brief explanation, and let's move on down the line.
Yes, sir. And I would tell, if after you look at the snapshot, if there's any questions, you can always call me, and those for you. If I skip over, well, I won't skip over it. I will just tell you, throughout the last couple of years, we've had policies that we brought before you to approve, and we have done those as a side policy and had acknowledgments signed for those things. And now that some of these, or quite a few of these, are going to be things that you've already approved in the past, we're just putting them in the handbook now because they just had an acknowledgement signature for them. We did add a forward at the beginning of the handbook, just a welcome of sorts to say, welcome to Rutherford County. We're glad you're here to work with us. The introduction page, we added for the applicant to acknowledge that they told the truth on their application, and also language that allows us to modify policies as things change. Employment definitions, we added in appointed official and constitutional officer because that's confusing to some of our people, just so they understand. Recruitment and hiring process. It says allow for hiring of someone if a position became available from a previous applicant pool if a position opens within a year. So what happens sometimes is people will post a job for an admin support like in HR, and then insurance and risk management a month later need an admin support. So what this is saying is that if we had a posting within the last year, and we really try to keep it to the last 6 months, honestly, because they're more recent applicants, then those departments, with the approval of the applicant, can review their application for consideration. Instead of having to delay the hiring process, it speeds it up by those 2 weeks. So that was the purpose of that policy. Consensual relationships, and this is just where, this is mainly talking about if 2 employees in the same department are the same, they're peers, you know, so 2 detention officers in a department are wanting to date. We have put some guidelines around what that should look like and how they should move forward in that process. Not saying that, anyways, so it just gives us some guidelines for that. Non-fraternization, this is where supervisors should not be dating their subordinates, and so we've updated and added some language to that. Complaint and grievance procedures, if employees have a concern and they want to voice it, we've just updated that form and added that into the policy. We had it in the past, but we put it in the book. Confidentiality is another item that you guys had approved in the past. We've added to the handbook, which was an authorization. Open records, just explaining what the open records policy is, just so employees understand that as well. Expectation and rules of conduct. There are a couple of items that we've added in there that we, for example, if somebody stole something or dishonesty, that would warrant inappropriate behavior from a personal action that we would need to discuss. Those were added into that. Code of ethics and conflicts of interest. And this is just having, one of the things that we added into ours is that the employee cannot have relationships. So it doesn't mean, like the Code of Ethics and Conflicts of Interest already say, do you have a financial interest in whatever you're presenting? You know, like, is it a spouse or a brother or sister or whatever? What we've added in there is that someone doesn't need, might be an issue if somebody were to be dating one of our vendors. You know, they're not married to them, and that wasn't something that was brought forth at the beginning, but now they are. So that gives some language on how we should approach that. Secret recordings. So for those that understand the Tennessee Code Annotated, the law states that if two people are having a conversation, as long as one of them knows they're being recorded, it's okay for that one person to record and not tell the other, like secret recording. But the law goes on to say, and the Sixth Circuit has a case around this, is that if the organization has a policy against secret recordings, that we can have that policy. So we're not saying that somebody can't record a meeting if they choose. They just need to tell the other people that they're recording the meeting. So that's what that's about. Drug-free workplace and substance abuse. It makes clarification what happens if an employee gets arrested for drug charges or substance abuse or something like that. We removed the residency policy. Part of the primary reason is because we've got so many employees that are not living in Rutherford County already. It was counterintuitive to have the policy because people were already being hired that were not here, so they didn't have a residency. So what we put in our offer letter is that it's preferred that you reside within Rutherford County, because obviously we want our employees to live where they work. But the reality is that we have employees that work in many other counties, one of which is Warren County and Cannon County, all of those other counties.
Does that include department heads?
It does. We did a heat map, and I actually had Mike from GIS to do a heat map, send him all the addresses, and we've got several department heads and assistant department heads that are already not living in the county. So it wasn't fair to the other departments who were asking to not live here, be made to live here, when others were being hired who didn't live here. So that's why we're asking to change it as well. Anti-harassment, this is just an updating of the reporting of harassment complaints. Workplace bullying, this is a new policy, and it's zero tolerance for bullying coworkers, and also for supervisors not to be bullied, as well as other employees. Searches, this is talking about have their workplace. So where this comes in is there is some we had someone, and some of these are because a question's been approached by an employee. There was a perception that their desk was their private workplace, but as a supervisor, if you're out of work sick, I may have to go through your desk because I'm looking for paperwork and those type things. So this is just clarifying that anything within the building is not considered private. I mean, it's the county's desk, it's the county's locker, the county's kitchen, those type things. So that's what that's clarifying, is that we may have to go into those spaces. Fitness rooms and workout equipment, this is just an addition. We already had an acknowledgement form for that. Technology use, we already had an acknowledgement form for that. Corrective action, this is just talking about the steps to clarify. Rutherford County is an at-will employer, state of Tennessee is at-will employer, but this is doing a strike one, strike two, strike three, and then we're just, it's not working out kind of thing. So we clarified what the process should be. Separation of employment, this is something that we already had in an acknowledgement, but we also wanted to update this, and talks about hold on just a second. Asking employees to give us a 10 working days notice instead of a 2-week notice. Sometimes that 2 weeks includes 5 days, 3 or 4 days of holidays, and then we don't know, we don't have it, so we're asking for 10 working days notice to be on good standing. Wage and salary.
Could they take vacation during that time?
No, and sick days are not allowed too. The policy actually says that you can't take sick and annual your last 2 weeks, your last 10 days that you've applied for.
That's already clarified?
The way it works, just so you know, I mean, like the sick, if somebody called out sick, started calling out sick, and they did that for the whole week, we would take their separation date back to the first day, because employees get paid out their annual time already. So there's no reason for them to take that 2 weeks and hold the position from somebody else. Wage and salary, we fixed an issue, made it to where if the commission does a change, because right now there's some language in there that was even though it says that the commission has the right to change what they want to, you know, at any meeting, any time, we have just made that just the policy. It says the salary will be approved each fiscal year, and the process for that will be approved, and that's what we'll be following. So we just streamline that down. Overtime and compensatory, this is talking about, we had an acknowledgement form for that as well. People before they worked comp time or overtime to get approval, just so as not to grow that. So that's just adding that in there. Longevity pay, instead of having it say a set amount, it's kind of like the salary, whatever the commission approves, because if the commission says no longevity, then this policy will be correct, and if they say, you know, $50 longevity, then it will be correct. Payroll and timekeeping procedures. This is a policy that's already an acknowledgement, and basically what it's stating is that if employees are being asked to work off the clock by their supervisors, that they're to notify HR, because employees are not to work off the clock. Attendance. This is just an update into there. It's just saying that employees need to report to work on time. It's just a clarification of what attendance means. Coming to work on time, failure to report or stay is a grounds for probably disciplinary if you don't stay as scheduled. Leave categories. So this is a bigger section. Some of this clarifies military leave. There was a lot of changes to military leave. There was a lot of changes to the Tennessee Maternity Paternity Leave Act this past year, in the last couple of years. And so we have added all of those situations in so that the employee understands and knows. One of the things that we're asking is a change to the bereavement policy. Currently, there's a bereavement policy of 3 days, and we're asking to leave the bereavement of 3 days in there for extended family members, such as a father-in-law, mother-in-law, or grandparent. But if it's a spouse or a child, we are asking to go to 5 days. There's lots of other employers that do that, but if an employee loses a spouse or a child, they're probably going to they may even need beyond 3 days or the 5 days, whichever is approved, and they could have leave available for that. But just to be in line with kind of what some of the other local employers are doing as well.
Dude, I'm sorry. On the bereavement, it says close family members, and then it says extended family members. Is there any way that we could have that defined out more clearly?
Well, we did label it in the handbook. Yeah, I'll tell you real quick. Hold on just a second. I brought it with me.
Could immediate family members be added to that, Sonia, and clarify that?
Because some people don't understand what it means by immediate family members. So what we put in here, let me get to the actual page. Hold on. So it says, what we said is the 5 days, the immediate family would include parents, step-parents, spouse, and children, natural, foster, step, or adopted, siblings, natural, foster, step, or adopted, and grandchildren. That would be the 5 days. And for the 3 days, it would be for extended family, which would be fathers-in-law, daughters or sons-in-law, sisters or brothers-in-law, grandparents and grandparents-in-law. And that's the thought that would cover most of our employees' needs, or would hope to get them there. Obviously, some people may need more time. I mean, if I lost either my son or my husband, I'd probably be crazy, so just so you know. But I would most people would need more time, I would think, and may use their sick leave. Modified or light duty, this is already a clarification of what we've got, what does modified duty and light duty look like, and those are really related to FMLA and OJI, and so it's just a clarification of those policies. Lactation policy, this is something it was in our handbook, but it wasn't a separate policy, so we just did that to better explain because some of our departments were not understanding that breastfeeding was covered under federal law, and so I had to make sure that they understand that, so that's what's in there. Hazardous materials, talking about the proper labeling, that's something that's already covered under our OSHA standards, but we just wanted to make sure that that was clarified as well. Employee assistance program, just making sure that the employees know that this is a free service. Some people think that they have to pay for it, and we want to make sure they know what services are allowed under the EAP, and it's for full-time, part-time, volunteers, interns, anybody who provides a service to the county. Employee identification badge, this is just, we already have an acknowledgement form. This is just adding it to the policy. Social media, we already had an acknowledgement form that's already been approved by you guys. Abuse prevention, this is one of the things that's added. Our insurance carrier requires that we add this policy. So that's one that we added. It says provides examples and pointers for identifying abuse, adds that retaliation against anyone has a good faith complaint regarding abuse will be subject to corrective action. This is abuse of coworkers, but it's also if an employee is subject to abuse, maybe not in the workplace, how we work through that and help them get what they need. Reimbursement agreement, this is a policy that's already in place that you guys approved. It's just being added to the handbook. The Berry-Brady Act is another one that's already a policy, just has to be added to the employee handbook. Employee appearance, we just added some guidelines of what professional appearance would look like, male or female, slacks, nice shirt, be clean, wash your hair, those type things, and put those in there just so they would understand better. Criminal investigations, arrest, and convictions. This is a new policy, and this is what would happen, what guidelines that we would follow if one of our employees were arrested and then subsequently convicted of a charge, and how we would follow that. Background checks is already a policy in place. Security systems, this is if we are adding, because we do have security systems in a lot of our departments and hallways, is just saying there's no expectation to privacy. That's put there to protect the citizens and the employees in the county as well. Electronic signatures, just to say that those are legally blinding because everything is going to electronic and you don't do a wet signature for an electronic application. So that's making sure that they understand that that electronic signature is just as binding as a wet signature. Solicitation, for people not to come in and solicit from our employees. So we don't want that happening because some find offense to maybe what they're trying to raise money for, or it might be something that they're not want to be a part of, and so we put a policy in there for that. Work from home, this is a policy that's been requested several times. So the language that's in there is it's not intended for somebody to work from home on a continuous basis. It's on a unique and as-needed basis. It could be, and it's where it's in the county's best interest for this work to take place, not the employees. Obviously, we are service industry in Rutherford County, and it's helpful for our employees to be available for the community to be served, and for those departments who serve on both sides of the fence, whether it's community and the employees, really needs people there. But there are unique situations that may occur that somebody might need to work from home, and that's what that policy's for. And it's can only be approved by the constitutional officer of the department that is making the request. So the department head doesn't get to make the decision, the constitutional officer does. So. On-call and call-in and call-back, those are two that we've added. And this on-call and the call-back-in helps with the residency policy, because part of the residency policy was in there is because we wanted people to be able to get to Rutherford County should there be a situation. That's where public safety comes in and all these other things. But sometimes people can live in Cannon County and get here quicker than they can from Rockville. So if I'm coming to the courthouse, I can probably get here quicker from Woodbury than I can from Eagleville, just, based on the roads and the time of day. So we put some language in there to offset the removing of the residency policy for that purpose, to say, as long as, if you're somebody who is on call or public safety and subject to on call, that you need to be able to be here, some situations within an hour and the other within 2, and then how the payment would be if you were to be called back in. And, oops, let me see. Professional membership, this is just talking about those individuals like, so Michael Smith has to have special memberships in order to be a CPA and also to be the CFO, you know, for the county, to be the budget director for the county. And so that's just saying that that's allowed for those to be approved for our department heads and other employees to participate in that if their positions require it. Tools and supplies. This is, so I'll give you an example, like the Correctional Work Center. They have like duty belts that has like, you know, if they have sprays or maybe, well, any of the departments that have special equipment, we'll just say that. So it could be, probably pretty much most of our public safety departments would have special equipment. If they damage their radio themselves, like if it's not just regular wear and tear and they take their radio and they throw it to the ground, it shatters in places, well, that's not really the taxpayer's problem. That's your problem because you broke it. That's what that policy's saying. If it's not regular wear and tear and you purposely break a piece of county property, then you're expected to replace that. The citizens shouldn't have to replace that. Personal property talks about what they bring into the county, that the county also is not responsible for replacing stolen property. You're responsible for maintaining your property. Whistleblowing, this is talks about, provides employees with the whistleblowing hotline number to waste, fraud, and abuse, and that's one of the things that are also required by the State Comptroller's Office, that we are required to make sure that our employees all know that 1-800 number to call for waste, fraud, and abuse. I believe they can. Mm-hmm. Because the idea is that they've got to give enough facts that you can follow up on it, because obviously it's not always a manned line, so sometimes it's a recording, and you've got to give enough information for them to verify. But if you're wanting follow-up, you're obviously going to have to give them a name and number to follow back up with you. Employee media release and consent, because we do activities, let's just say that Lisa Kay goes out and does something for the fire department and there's some employees in there, we're getting their permissions now to use their person in pictures and PR related stuff, and we just wanted to make sure that we had an acknowledgement for that. And that is the fast and furious lowdown of policy.
Are there any questions?
I have one.
Go ahead, Mike.
Number 5 on the very front page, consensual relationship. So I think about public safety that runs 3 shifts. So it says here somebody has to go to a different department if they're dating or resign. Can they go to a different shift?
Well, so that would be, let me look and see exactly how it's worded. I think the way it's worded is it allows for that. So it's this is a bullet point, so that wasn't the entire policy, so let me look at the entire policy. Right. Hold on.
It says they have to be reassigned to a new department. If no reassignment is possible, one of them has to resign.
But here's the actual policy. I'll read it to you. It says, to avoid the appearance of favoritism or bias, Rutherford County strongly discourages dating or cohabitating due to a committed relationship between employees within the same department or same division, which a shift is a division, of a larger department, especially if one of the employees exercises supervisory control over the other. It is the responsibility of both employees to notify his or her constitutional officer, director, or department head should a romance occur between 2 employees within the same department upon the first date. If such a situation should arise after employment has begun, one of the employees shall be transferred to another position should one of the employees be qualified for another position in another department, or another division within the same department. If there are no vacant positions or positions that either employee is qualified to fill, then one of the employees will be required to resign. In the event neither chooses to resign, the less senior employee shall be forced to resign for cause. This policy shall be considered when assigning, transferring, or promoting employees. The whole reason is because it causes, especially if they're supervisory, that causes all kinds of issues. So our thing is we've got have positions, if somebody just lets us know. I mean, this is a pretty standard policy. I mean, when I worked at Kroger's a minute ago, we had that policy for years. I mean, just because you're in a store and it just creates issues. So it's better if they're, so like at the ambulance service or even fire department, sheriff's office that are on different shifts, if they're not on the same shift division and the same division within, like say one person worked in warrants and the other worked in detention, that's not an issue. They're not under the same supervisory authority, if that makes sense.
So you're saying the shifts, same job, like you're a deputy. The guy you're dating works first shift and you work second, you're saying that's a division. The shifts are a division.
So like in fire, and I'm not sure exactly how the sheriff's office labels it, so I'll speak to what I know better. The ambulance service and the fire department have shifts A, B, C, and D. And so each shift is supervised by a different shift commander. And so that's a different division because it's under a different shift commander, if that makes sense. That's the best way I know to explain it.
Yeah, that clarified it.
Right.
Thank you.
Did I misspell something? Oh, yeah, okay. Thank you.
So these would be for the Rutherford County handbook, excluding the schools, and so that the public knows school has their own handbook, as well as other elected officials.
Right, so currently, the departments that are under and I call it county general just because that's just, the highway department falls under the county general, which is any of the departments who report to the mayor. The elections office report is under this handbook. The highway department, the county clerks, the circuit court clerks, and the trustee, I believe I got all of the, and like ambulance, all of those, ambulance solid waste, are under this handbook currently. The sheriff's office will review it after it's approved, and they'll determine if they want to come under our handbook. And we'll provide it to all the constitutional officers, because if the constitutional officer who currently is participating doesn't want or doesn't agree with something that's in our handbook, it's perfectly within their right to have their own handbook. And so currently, the sheriffs and Register of Deeds and property assessor have their own employee handbook. But we would provide whatever is approved by this commission for all the constitutional officers participating in, but if they choose not to, they can have their own handbook or keep the one that they currently have.
I don't know if you can answer this. This is a curious question more than anything. How different are these elected officials, school board, sheriff's department, how different is their handbook than from ours?
So, some of them just have a policy or two that's different. They follow, in general, our handbook, but they have a policy or two that they don't necessarily agree with. And so they remove that policy and just put it under their, I'll call it their umbrella. So instead of saying the Rutherford County handbook, it would say Rutherford County XYZ Department's handbook. And that's, just constitutional officer, and they want to have their own handbook. There's, they may take the entire handbook and keep the whole thing, but what I've seen is the three that didn't have it, there's, I think, just one or two policies that maybe they don't agree with personally, and so they choose not to accept that, accept our handbook. But I will tell you that Eric Hennessy, who is the chief of staff and an attorney, and Nick Christensen and his paralegal, Jordan, and myself have spent months researching the law, researching what other entities' policies are, just to make sure, and then looking at things that have happened in the county in the last couple of years and said, you know, maybe we should have a policy about that. And so we have tried to encompass things that we might encounter. This, obviously, something will happen the day after y'all approve it that's not in this handbook. That's just how it'll happen. We, you know, could think that we've tried to think of everything. So we did make sure to say that in here, that this isn't every and all policy. It's just the ones that we could.
All right. It helps. Is there any questions? Do I have a motion to approve these for the handbook? Second, Commissioner Cush. All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you, Sonia. Hey, good job, good work. Thank you for it. All right, is there any other business? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.